Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 darkest Game of Thrones moments.
Accept this token of our faith, my lord, and lead us from the darkness.
For this list, we're looking at scenes from this hit HBO show that really showed us the extent of human depravity. To clarify, we'll be focusing on thematically dark moments and not literally dark ones, even though we too could barely see the long night. We'll be excluding House of the Dragon for now, though Queen Emma's birthing sequence could definitely qualify. If you haven't seen the entirety of Game of Thrones, beware of spoilers. Were there any moments we missed? Let us know in the comments. Number 10. Ned Stark's execution. Nowadays, it's common knowledge that Game of Thrones characters are not the kind to get attached to. But a bulk of viewers had no reason to suspect this back when it debuted. Despite the ensemble cast, Ned Stark is initially the closest thing we have to a main protagonist. He is honorable through and through, so he's virtually the last person we expected not to see Season 2.
Your son has no claim to the throne.
Liar! You condemn yourself with your own mouth, Lord Stark. Sir Barristan seized this traitor.
Unfortunately for Ned, his staunchness in trying to rightfully get the horrendous King Joffrey deposed makes him enemy number 1 for the Lannisters. He's quickly detained and branded a traitor. Just when it seems like Joffrey will show mercy, the latter orders a beheading with both of Ned's daughters in attendance. This was a serious reality check. Number 9. Jon Snow's assassination. Speaking of characters we thought were bulletproof, Jon Snow's technical death caught everyone by surprise.
Lord Commander, it's one of the wildlings you brought back. Says he knows your Uncle Benjen. Says he's still alive.
Are you sure he's talking about Benjen?
Said he was First Ranger.
Despite not actually being Ned's son, Jon might as well be in terms of his adopted morals and resolution. The Night's Watch are lucky to have him as Lord Commander, but several members are unable to suspend their prejudices to see that.
We can learn to live with the wildlings, or we can add them to the army of the dead. Whatever they are now, they're better than that.
Jon's decision to let the wildlings cross the wall was naturally going to be contentious, but it is ultimately the right one. What isn't the right decision is for several traitors to ambush their leader and send him to an early grave. It's a gross descent into cowardice for so many otherwise good men. While Jon ultimately gets revived, the scene still fills us with bitterness to this day. Number 8. Daenerys burns King's Landing. Now, here's a decision that was controversial from a storytelling standpoint. For much of the series, Daenerys Targaryen is presented as a rising phoenix, destined to do away with much of the corruption and strife plaguing Westeros. Except her arrival on the continent is met with much more resistance than anticipated. Rather than take the hardships in stride and rise above, Daenerys becomes the sorest winner in history by burning down not only her enemies in King's Landing, but also hundreds of thousands of innocents caught in the literal crossfire. It's hard enough watching such a beloved character make this turn, but we also can't blame the reaction of her closest confidants over the sheer horrendousness of it all.
It was necessary.
Necessary? Have you been down there? Have you seen children, little children burned?
Number 7. Craster's daughter wives. Game of Thrones has no shortage of despicable villains, but few were designed to draw our ire quite like Craster.
You Southerners make good wine. I'll give you that. We're not Southerners. Who's this little girl? You're prettier than half my daughters.
A wildling living north of the Wall, Craster has an uneasy, if understood, alliance with the Watch. While there's no single moment of his that most makes our stomachs turn, his introduction and the revelation that he's taken to marrying and breeding with his daughters in an endless series of perversion is a difficult transgression to abide. To make matters worse, Craster's made a habit of sacrificing any sons he sires to the growing White Walker horde.
He's murdering his own children. He's a monster.
Many a time, that monster's been the difference between life and death for our rangers. Your uncle among them.
Sometimes the darkest evil exists within the heart of humanity, but thankfully, Craster eventually gets what's coming to him. Number 6. Jaime and Cersei mourn Joffrey.
Please give the Queen a moment alone with her son. Yes, Lord. All of you.
We've known Jaime and Cersei Lannister have a toxic relationship since the series premiere, but even we didn't expect this.
Avenge him. Avenge our son. Kill Tyrion.
Though the death of Joffrey Baratheon came as a celebrated development among fans, it was followed by one of the most difficult scenes to watch in the entire series. Though Jaime and Cersei are understandably mortified and unable to accept the loss of their son, the former's coping mechanisms are seriously messed up. Despite Cersei adamantly rebuffing his advances, Jaime angrily forces himself upon her anyway, engaging in an act that would be unforgivable under any circumstances. The fact that it happens right next to their son's corpse makes it all the more disturbing.
You're a hateful woman. Why have the gods made me love a hateful woman?
Number 5. Hold the door. Sometimes character arcs come full circle so satisfactorily that it blows by our loftiest expectations. But that doesn't make this revelation any less dour.
I want an egg. How'd you like them? Boiled? Fried up with some butter?
Hodor.
The simple-minded Willis, better known as Hodor, proves to be a reliable ally to the Stark children, particularly Bran. But he pays the ultimate price for his loyalty when their party is besieged by White Walkers.
Hold the door! Hold the door! Hold the door!
While Hodor is tasked with holding the door so Bran can escape, the latter inadvertently wargs into the mind of a young Willis. And it's this action that turns Willis into Hodor for the rest of his life.
Hold the door! Hold the door! Hold the door! Hold the door! Hold the door!
It is a stunning reveal, but one that's punctuated with Hodor's heroic death. He was always destined for this moment, and he pulls through completely.
Hodor! 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 Hodor!
Number 4. Theon Becomes Reek.
You reek. Reek! That's a good name for you.
Theon Greyjoy is a thoroughly unlikable character in the first 2 seasons, but even he doesn't deserve what happens to him. After his failure to take and hold Winterfell, Theon falls into the clutches of the sadistic Ramsay Snow. Despite being a member of House Bolton, Ramsay doesn't care about avenging House Stark, to which his holds fealty. Instead, he takes to torturing Theon for the sheer joy of it.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
For an entire season, Theon is subjected to an endless series of mistreatment, including being stripped of his manhood. But the darkest moment comes when Ramsay also takes his dignity.
What is your name?
Reek. My name is Reek.
By accepting the name Reek, Theon fully assumes a life of submission, and his lifetime's worth of trauma keeps him there. Number 3. Sacrificing Shireen. If there was one glimmer of hope and innocence in Westeros, it was the young Shireen Baratheon.
Who would you have chosen?
I wouldn't have chosen either. It's all the choosing sides that made everything so horrible.
Sometimes a person has to choose. Sometimes the world forces his hand.
Despite coming from the miserable Stannis Baratheon and being afflicted with the otherwise fatal grayscale, Shireen manages to keep a chipper attitude regardless. But her father's desperate pursuit of the throne leads to one of the darkest moments of the series.
Where's my father? No, you can't do this! Father, where are you? Please, let me see my father! Father, where are you? Don't let her do this!
With the pivotal Battle of Winterfell looming, Stannis is persuaded to make the ultimate sacrifice. In a bid to get a favorable outcome from the Lord of Light, Stannis has Shireen tied to a pyre and burned alive. As if that wasn't horrid enough, Shireen's cries for mercy beforehand are haunting. But they are to no avail. Number 2. The Red Wedding. Clearly, some of the show's best moments are also the most heartbreaking. And it doesn't get more heartbreaking than the Red Wedding.
If it's a boy, I know what we should name him.
Oh, do you? It seems to me the father should have some say in his son's naming.
Eddard.
Despite following his heart, Robb Stark's decision to marry Talisa Maegir was always going to come as a slight to Walder Frey, to whose daughter he was originally betrothed.
I feel I've been remiss in my duties. I've given you meat and wine and music, but I haven't shown you the hospitality you deserve.
At the reception for the Constellation wedding, the Freys ambushed their guests and slaughtered them all. As if losing fan-favorite characters like Robb and Catelyn Stark wasn't bad enough, the murder of Talisa and their unborn child is the hardest pill to swallow of all. We've seen some cold and heartless betrayals on this show before, but none feels so vicious and senseless as this. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Sansa and Ramsay's wedding night.
I've come to escort you to the godswood, my lady. If you please, my lady, will you take my arm?
No.
Sansa Stark really becomes an exceptional character in the back half of the series, but she's forced to endure some of the worst mistreatment imaginable along the way.
Lady Sansa, will you take this man?
We already know that Sansa being forcibly married to Ramsay Bolton isn't going to go well, but just when we think the latter sunk to new lows, he digs even deeper.
Oh, no. You stay here, Reek. You watch.
Just the idea of them consummating things is cringe-inducing, but Ramsay makes the whole experience that much worse by forcing Theon to bear witness. Not only that, but Sansa is incredibly distraught as she loses her virginity in the worst possible way. Bleak, grim, and horrific, this scene truly tested the limits of viewers everywhere. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.